Thank you very much. And where's my prepared boilerplate here? We will now go to the questions of the witnesses. As we ask questions of our witnesses, the chair will recognize members in the order of their seniority on the subcommittee, alternating between majority and minority, and provided the members present when his or her turn arrives. Members who are not present when their turn begins will be recognized after the other members have had the opportunity to ask their questions. The chair reserves the right to accommodate a member who is unavoidably late or only able to be with us for a short time. I will begin by recognizing myself for 5 minutes to question the witnesses. First, Mr. Levin, a series of questions for you. ABC News reported that after issuing the December 2004 memo, you were working on another more specific interrogation memo imposing tighter controls on interrogation techniques. The report states that you never finished this memo and instead were, quote, forced out of the Justice Department when Alberto Gonzales became Attorney General, close quote. Was your departure from OLC voluntary?
I would have preferred to have stayed. I guess that's the best way to answer it.
Okay. And is it true that you did not finish a follow-up memorandum because of your removal at that point?
That is correct, sir.
And is the ABC report accurate that you were removed because your follow-up memo would have imposed limits on waterboarding or other interrogation techniques?
I don't know the reason for why I was removed, sir.
I'm sorry?
I don't know the answer to that, sir. I don't know why that decision was made.
So you can't say yes or no to that question?
I can't. I was not told a reason.
Okay. And so you do not know your views on imposing tighter controls and interrogations which related to the decision to have you removed from that position?
I do not know, sir.
Okay. Now, Newsweek reported, referring to you, that, quote, battles at the White House took their toll on your political future. Is that statement accurate, or is that speculative?
I don't know. Again, sir, I don't know the answer to that.
Okay. Now, John Yoo has written that the December 2004 replacement opinion you drafted was done for appearance sake, in quotes, and that, quote, no policies or interrogation techniques changed as a result of the withdrawal of the torture memo, close quote. Mr. Yoo has also said that, quote, the OLC's reversal was pure politics, unquote. Now, do you agree that nothing changed as a result of your 2004 memo? Do you agree that the 2004 memo you authored was pure politics?
I certainly don't agree it was pure politics, and I don't think it's accurate that nothing changed as a result of the change in legal analysis.
What do you think was the change?
I'm sorry?
How would you characterize the change?
Well, I unfortunately am not authorized to discuss certain matters, but I believe it is the case that there were certain changes in practices as a result of the change in legal analysis.
So as a result of the change in your memo, you think there were changes in, does that mean required changes in interrogation policies?
I believe that's the case, sir, yes, sir.
Now, John Yoo told the Washington Post that the interrogation memos he authored were, quote, near boilerplate, unquote. Do you agree with that assessment?
No, I don't, sir.
You think they were more significant than not boilerplate?
Well, I don't exactly know what he means by boilerplate, but there were statements in them that I think were not, to the extent boilerplate means sort of commonplace and accepted, there were statements in them that I do not think were commonplace or accepted.
And do you believe that those memos represent responsible scholarship consistent with the traditions of the Office of Legal Counsel?
Well, I'm reluctant to criticize John. I think that there were aspects of those memos that I would not have written that way.
Okay. And finally, in a debate in 2005, Mr. Yoo was asked if the president could torture a suspect's child if he believed that was necessary in time of war. The specific example, I'm not going to go into the specific example, it was rather gruesome of what you might do to the suspect's child. Mr. Yoo answered, I think it depends on why the president thinks he needs to do that, unquote. Do you agree with John Yoo that the president, as commander-in-chief, that his power as commander-in-chief would allow him to order a detainee's child to be abused if he believed it was necessary for the national defense?
I can't imagine a situation where that would be the case, sir.
Thank you. Colonel Wilkerson, in your prepared testimony, you write that as I compiled my dossier for Secretary Powell, and as I did further research, And as my views grew firmer and firmer, I needed frequently to reread that memo. That is to say, the memorandum of February 7th, 2002. I needed to balance in my own mind the overwhelming evidence that my own government had sanctioned abuse and torture, which at its worst had led to the murder of 25 detainees and a total of at least 100 detainee deaths. We had murdered 25 or more people in detention. That was the clear low point of the evidence. So your testimony is that 100 detainees have died in detention, and that you believe 25 of those were in effect murdered?
Mr. Chairman, I think the number is actually higher than that now. The last time I checked, it was about 108, and the total number that were declared homicides by the military services or by the CIA or others doing investigations, CID and so forth, was 25, 26, 27.
We declared homicides.
Right.
And
starting as early as December in Afghanistan.
And these were homicides
December 2000.
committed by people engaged in interrogation?
Or in guarding prisoners or something like that, yes.
So
people who were in detention.
They were in detention, and these weren't people killed trying to escape or something. They were declared homicides by our own authorities. Right. Do you know if any of them were prosecuted? As
far as I know, several were. And they have come to different conclusions. As an experienced military officer, one of the things that indicated to me early on, as I examined the results of some of these courts-martial, was that the punishment being rendered to these people, especially the lower-ranking people, didn't match the crime. And quickly, for a military officer, I know how that works. We have an extremely fair system in the military, the Uniform Court of Military Justice. If I were going to be tried, I'd much rather be tried under it than I would in a civilian court. So what was happening was a jury of their peers, if you will, officers and NCOs and enlisted personnel, knew that these people had performed under great tension and stress, and so it's my view that they were rendering verdicts of reduced to private first class, 2 months of pay, Article 15 type punishment, for example, rather than the kind of punishment that would have matched the crime. That was one of the insights I early gained into this as I looked at my Army in particular taking this action. And I said, now, why are these people not being given sentences appropriate to the crime, or at least what would appear to be?
And your supposition is?
And my supposition is the people on the jury of your peers, in the colonels, the NCOs, and so forth, and the military judges, they knew the background.
And I'll get to you more in the second round of questioning, but one question to follow up on this, and that is your judgment as a military, as a career military officer, is that these prosecutions were handled in a way that would lead you to suspect that the conduct that resulted in these homicides was tolerated or sanctioned from higher authority? I think it was fairly common knowledge throughout the very small Army that we have now that individuals in both the military police, military intelligence, interrogators, and so forth were under enormous pressure to produce intelligence, and they were also being given guidance that they could do things that weren't necessarily in consonance with the laws of land warfare. Certainly not in consonance with Common Article 3 of the Geneva Conventions or even the conventions themselves. And so that made people be more lenient. Thank you. My time has expired. I will now recognize the distinguished ranking minority member of the committee, Mr. Franks.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Colonel Wilkerson, I always appreciate anyone who's